Hey guys, so this is a case that has always interested me somewhat because I lived in Missouri before, but these are the Springfield Three, and they are Stacy McCall, Susie Streeter, and Cheryl Levitt. And what happened with them is Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall graduated high school, these two, the young girls, and they did that on June 6, 1992. After a night of graduation parties, they returned to the home Susie shared with her mother, Cheryl Levitt. So there's Cheryl. When friends went to check on the teens the next day, the home was empty. No Cheryl, no Stacy, no Susie. All were gone, purses and everything still at the house. So it was very odd. Everyone just thought, okay, they'll be back. They went out for a few minutes, they waited, and they never came home. And while there's been a lot of leads on the case and several suspects, this case was never solved. And this was back in 1992. The FBI even got involved and it still was never solved. You can understand some of these small towns not being able to solve crimes, but the FBI was involved in this one, and it's still a cold case in Springfield, Missouri. Now, they do have quite a few suspects, 6, and I'm going to ask about each of those because each one has its own reason that they believe these people may have committed the crime. So we'll just read each one and then we'll go from there. Some of them are pretty creepy, and I don't know that I have a person that at this point, I feel like that's the one for sure. But I think we should go through and just explore together. So the first person we're going to read about is Dustin Recla, Recla. I may be pronouncing that wrong. He was arrested for grave robbing. Susie Streeter had broke up with him. And so he's got a weird history, grave robbing. He literally stole a skull and some bones from a grave and then sold the gold fillings out of the skull to a pawn shop for $30. Talk about desperate for money. I mean, who goes and does something like that? That's ridiculous. So, because he's got this weird past and he was tied to Susie, the police said he could be a person that committed this crime. Okay, so got interrupted there, but I am back, and this is Dustin Recla. Could be Recla, I suppose, Recla. So I'm just going to ask for advice on Dustin and his connection to the murders of the Springfield Three. Evidently, he had dated Susie. She had just recently broke up with him, and he's kind of a weird guy. Weird past. So Dustin, tell us about Dustin being connected to the, I'm going to say probably murders. Disappearance. We'll call it a disappearance because we don't know murder for sure. Disappearance of the Springfield Three. It's just very odd that somebody would take 3 women. Dustin was very money focused. We do see that. We definitely see the money focus with Dustin. I don't know that he is. This isn't a card that says like, oh my goodness, he did it. It's not a really bad card. Plus, okay, I see what it's saying. Dustin is so money focused that he would have taken the other things too. I don't think it was Dustin. Doesn't feel like him. Just feels like he's so money focused. Like, why would he take all 3 women? Now, I will say there was a message on the answering machine at the mom's house, and someone accidentally, so Cheryl Levitt was the mom, someone accidentally erased it. Isn't that horrible? But yeah, someone accidentally erased it. I don't know that it was Dustin. We can ask for clarification on that card though. I think what it's saying is Dustin was just too money focused. Although I guess you could take people and hold them for money. Tell me about, I mean, he's digging up graves, right? So he's desperate. He does weird things. And that's the son. Again, I just don't feel like this is the situation here. I don't feel like he's the person. Okay. Gerald Gerald Carnahan. Gerald Carnahan actually is a suspect because he tried to abduct another girl in the area. He was later convicted of first-degree murder in 2007 for killing Jackie Johns in 1985. And it was DNA that actually linked him to that crime. So he also was a suspect in other murders, but he wasn't convicted of them. So Gerald, he's got quite the past, and he was in the area, so you can understand why they would think it might be Gerald. So let me focus on Gerald Carnahan for a few minutes here in connection with the Springfield 3. Tell us about Gerald in the connection to the disappearance of the Springfield 3. And let's see what we get. Gerald. He's got quite the past. You definitely could see that he might be the one. Tell me about Gerald. We're going to take both of these cards. The Seven of Wands is a card of a lot coming at you at once and trying to hold it back. And the Chariot, someone like driving away. So, the Chariot has come up for like moving bodies before, and this could be a struggle. I'm going to ask for a little bit more because there are 3 in that card too, which makes me question. Gerald, like taking charge of others and moving them away. Have had that card for people that were moved. We just got it with Madeline Kingsbury, as a matter of fact, and we knew she'd been moved because of that card. Okay, tell me more about Gerald Carnahan and the disappearance of the Springfield 3. Tell me about Gerald Carnahan, the disappearance of the Springfield 3. So I've got 2 again. Well, that is the 4 of Swords, and that's a mother and child. So the Gerald Carnahan is actually looking pretty suspect to me. We've got this Knight of Wands rushing in, and we saw this guy who also rushed in. This guy, he rushed in so fast that he's not prepared because he's actually put 2 different shoes on. If you look at this card and the 7 of Wands, it's like somebody doing something really impulsively. And we have this other impulsive guy here. And we have mother and child, which makes me think of this situation with a mother and child. And then we have a situation of someone on a coffin. I'm really pointing towards Gerald Carnahan at this point and moving the bodies, taking them away. It looks really positive for this Gerald Carnahan to me. We'll ask about the other ones though, because, don't want to leave anybody out. Steve Garrison is another suspect. Steve Garrison, he drove a motorcycle. I don't know why. Oh, he was a motorcycle gang member. I was going to say, I don't know why that's relevant. He told police he knew what happened to the Springfield 3. He said he would provide more information if they got him out of jail. He said he'd overheard somebody at a party talking and that they were taken to a hog farm. And police said Garrison provided info that wasn't public knowledge. So maybe he did know something about it. But he's saying he overheard it. You don't know if he overheard it or if he's the one. This is really weird. So the police did take Garrison out of jail. They put him up in a hotel. And during that time, he got out of the hotel, sodomized a girl, and is now back in jail. So Stephen Garrison is a real piece of work. Another person that clearly could have committed a crime like this. So tell us about Stephen Garrison and his involvement in the Springfield 3. Tell us about that. Tell us about Steve Garrison, and his involvement in the Springfield 3. I don't think so. This is a card of working. He may even have a decent alibi. I don't think he was involved. Doesn't look like it with that card. All right, next one we've got up is Bart Streeter. Bart Streeter is Susie's brother of all things. He was disinherited by his mom for being violent and drinking. Bart had actually hit Susie. She had lived with him for a little while, and then she moved out because he was so violent. He did pass a lie detector test. So let's ask about Bart. Tell us about Bart. Bart being the one. Bart Streeter. No, I don't see Bart Streeter being the one either. I mean, he did have feelings, good feelings towards his sister, as much as I know he was a real, kind of rotten when he hit her. I'm not saying that he wants to kill her or his mother or her friend for that matter. Not what I'm seeing there. All right. Last but not least on the police list of suspects, Robert Craig Cox. Former Army Ranger, currently on death row. He had abducted 2 women from California, convicted of killing a Walt Disney clerk, but the conviction was later overturned. He was living in Springfield when the Springfield 3 disappeared. He may have done work for the phone company in front of their house. So there's some ties, although his girlfriend was an alibi, saying that she gave him a good alibi for what he was doing at the time they disappeared. Later, she recanted her alibi and said she didn't know what he was doing. So the weird thing was Cox told investigators he knew the women were dead and he believed they were buried around Springfield. So let's see. He's just saying he knows, but we've had other people in this list say the same thing. So tell us about Robert Craig Cox. Sounds like he's got a past. Who would have thought all these people would be in Springfield, Missouri around the same time? Craig Cox. Well, Craig Cox is somebody who is kind of one of your worst nightmares, is what I see. People fighting down here, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. So let's explore that a little bit further, because now we've got Craig Cox looking a little funny. He really is somebody who would scare people. Tell us more about him being involved in the murder of these 3 women, or the disappearance. I want to keep calling it a murder, so that should tell you something. The disappearance of these 3 women. Ugh. Tell us about Robert Craig Cox being involved in the disappearance of these 3 women. Um, this is somebody pretending to be something they're not, trying to stand up to something, trying to. We got it for like people like, say, Kylie Rodney when she tried to drive her car when she was totally drunk and couldn't actually handle it. Somebody trying to do something. This guy's small, but he's trying to be bigger than he is. And I think that's the case here. I don't think this guy was involved in it. I know we have the death card, which makes you say, whoa, 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 but the death card's there. But what I'm reading is this guy is like trying to pretend. He really wasn't involved, but he's trying to pretend he was involved in these people's death. And I'm just going to ask for clarification on that just to make sure I'm reading it right. But that's the way I'm reading that card. It's like some people like attention and stuff from this weird stuff. I know it's really weird, but tell us a little bit more about Robert Craig Cox and being involved or not involved. Tell us about that. We'll do 2 cards. How about we'll do a being involved and a being not involved, since we've got something that could be interpreted different ways. Tell us about him being involved. Okay, this is the being involved. That's rushing in, and we do get this card when somebody is buried. So we'll see. We'll see. And tell us about him not being involved. So we're going to go with what we've got here too and see where we are with that. Not being involved in the Springfield 3. We've got 2 cards with that too. Oh. And this is the Hierophant and the 10 of Wands. The Hierophant is kind of a spiritual leader, 2 people looking up to him. 10 of Wands is carrying a heavy load, heavy burden, and moving away. So I kind of think he's involved to the degree that he's trying to claim it as his own. Let me just ask if he lied about it, because I feel like he did. And that's kind of what I'm getting with the cards. Tell me if Robert Craig Cox lied about Springfield 3. At this point, it's either Gerald Carnahan or Robert Craig Cox. Tell me about Robert lying about the Springfield 3. It's like he wants to be involved or something. It's really weird. Well, this is the Emperor and this is Strength. These are two major Arcana cards. So, I don't know. They're both cards of being in charge. Both cards of being the one that's in charge of someone else. It's closing people's mouth, which makes me also wonder about, does he want to shut people up by saying these things? Is he kind of covering up for people? Is he taking charge of the situation? It just, I'm not convinced he was the one, but he has a motive in here for taking charge of this and acting like he's involved, which is quite weird. Convicted of killing a Walt Disney clerk that was later overturned, was living in Springfield when they disappeared and may have been working in front of her house. I'm going back and forth between these two, to be honest with you. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to compare cards with the two of them. I mean, who knows? Maybe they knew each other and did something together. But let's just compare. We'll pull some cards for Gerald and we'll pull some cards for Robert, because they both look like, to some degree, they may have had involvement. I'm not sure if Robert just was saying he was involved and trying to take on the notoriety. That's kind of more of what I'm getting. The notoriety makes him stronger, right? We got the Strength card and we got that Emperor. It makes him strong in his world. I know that sounds bizarre to us, but in his world, you know, where people do kill people and things like that, and the notoriety of it. How weird is that? Okay, tell us about Gerald Carnahan. We're going to compare Gerald Carnahan to Robert Craig Cox. Tell us about Gerald Carnahan's involvement with the Springfield 3. Give us a card that represents Gerald's involvement. Okay, yeah, the Tower. I really think it's Gerald. I just do. Here we have the Tower card. He seems stronger to me. He seems like everything's going to him. And Robert Craig Cox's involvement with the Springfield 3. I really think it's Gerald Carnahan. Robert Craig Cox. He seemed more, Robert to me seemed more like he just wants the notoriety. And this guy, he's got secrets and he's holding secrets in, but I also think he may know something about it or have heard something about it, but I don't know necessarily that he's the one. That's the High Priestess. She's, you know, our secrets, things hidden, things unknown. And that's kind of what I've gotten from him, that he's just trying to sort of claim the notoriety and pretend he knows, and maybe he does know some secrets, maybe he heard things, but I really, even when doing this, my hand is really hot on Gerald Carnahan's card. So I'm going with Gerald Carnahan 100%. I really think he was the one. Let's ask for motive for Gerald Carnahan to do something like this, to take 3 women. Gerald Carnahan, what was his motive? Tell us about motive for the Springfield 3. It's been a lot of years. Tell us about motive for Gerald Carnahan. Look at that, 3 heartbreaking. It's swords through people's hearts. It's like he wanted to hurt people. Isn't that terrible? It's like he wanted to hurt people. That's what I'm getting. He wanted to hurt people. He wanted to cause not just like physical pain, but emotional pain. He wanted to cause pain. He's a really weird guy. He enjoys that kind of stuff. Yeah, not a good person at all. We're going to ask like where they are because they were never found. So tell us about where these three women are. They could be in different places, but just tell us where. I'm guessing they probably are in similar places. So that would take a lot to hide three different bodies in three different places. It could happen. Tell me where these women are. This is the Five of Cups. That's a loss card. It may be that they're a complete loss. I hate to say that, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, that it may be a complete loss at this point. I just don't know that they can be found. You see the three spilled cups? Like, they're lost. I feel like they can't be recovered. Yeah, that's what's coming to me. They can't be recovered. Isn't that weird? Um, can't be recovered. Give me a landmark to where there's any sorts of fragments, anything left. Give me a landmark. I feel like they can't be recovered. That is the oddest thing. I've never gotten that before. He wanted to hurt them. It's just so mean. You see the three swords and the pain he's causing, and the three cups spilled, and there's even like red around them, which makes you feel almost like blood, and vomit is coming to me with the green little bit in this card. It's just terrible. Like, I feel like they were kind of tortured. And then you've got the tower of people, total destruction. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I feel like he tortured them. This is just horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. But any landmarks to where anything remotely close to where these people would have been. This is kind of this card reminds me of justice. It's a card that can be where you help someone else, where you go to help them. Is there anyone? We got this card with that Madeline Kingsbury, and I couldn't quite figure it out. But later after the reading, I realized the place that they found her was a place where the guy who killed her family member used to take care of the property, and you could see the property here with coins that can stand for earth, and taking care, right? So it made a lot more sense to me after the reading. I remember during the reading, I was like, I don't know why that card's there. It's not making a lot of sense to me. But it does now in hindsight is 2020, right? So with this card too, as somewhere where if there's any fragments or anything, although I do feel like they can't be recovered, I feel like their bodies are gone. But where it happened, it might be something that they'd want to look around an area where he may have been to, or his family. It was the family in Madeline's case, taken care of. I'm going to remember this card in that sense. There's also people begging and asking for help, and there's a ticket there, and there's just like someone's in charge and other people are beneath them, and this person decides kind of their fate. And I'm just getting again and again and again, these bodies can't be recovered. So I don't think there's anything there to find. That's keeps coming to me. Yeah, it's terrible, but that's what keeps coming to me. I don't think there's anything to be recovered. And unless Gerald Carnahan actually admits to this crime, I don't think, because I don't feel there's any evidence left. I don't think they'll ever get any justice, unfortunately, for this. I wish I had a better message, but I don't. I just don't see that this one really is going to be, that there's much there to hold him with to even convict him, is what I'm saying. Somehow he completely destroyed the bodies. Let me ask a little bit more about how he completely destroyed the bodies, because I know this is gloomy as could be. And I'm sorry, guys, turn it off if you don't like it. I don't know what to say. It really is gloomy as could be, but I never know what's going to come through in these readings. Let's see if there's anything that could come through in the cards with how he destroyed the bodies. This is the Hanged Man. This is a kind of a not moving, waiting. And hanging is not good. Okay, we've got that. Let's see what else. Because that doesn't say necessarily how the bodies were absolutely destroyed. Hanging. That's terrible. How were they actually destroyed? Because I feel like they're destroyed. I feel like they don't exist anymore. How was the evidence in this crime destroyed? Go with that. And this is the King of Wands. The King of Wands is really active, and he. Ugh. I feel like, okay, this is gonna sound terrible, but I feel like the bodies were like strung up, and um, like this guy actively let animals maybe, or I feel like they were. Ugh, I don't know. I don't think I should go any further on this. I feel like they may have been any fed to animals or something of that nature. It's terrible, and I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to stop there and put the cards away for today. Some of the greetings are gruesome, and Springfield 3 is no exception to that. It's quite gruesome. It actually makes my stomach sick, especially when we saw like the vomit and the blood and all this stuff that's coming through that looks horrible, absolutely horrible. Gerald Carnahan, from what I can see, is the guy though. Sorry, this one got so gross. I see what I see, and sometimes I see things I don't want to see. But that's the case with this one. I think this was really torturous and gross and disgusting and terrible. That's all I can say. And unfortunately, I don't think that person is ever going to pay for the crimes that he committed with these three, which is terrible because there's no evidence. All right, I'll see you guys. Bye.